So, hello everyone. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're looking after yourselves. Welcome to another episode of Behind the Curtain, where we dive into some of the topics we've spoken in our main podcast, the Student Guide. But we also look into different themes, and we have more of a sort of singular focus on this. So these episodes are more focused on one single topic rather than sort of like diving into a variety of topics. But as always, we bring on amazing guest speakers and amazing individuals to come and speak about their story. We've got another amazing guest speaker here today. As I always say, I don't like to say their description or talk about them because I think it's best for us to hear from them themselves. So I'm going to hand over to Rami. Could you know a bit more about you and what you do?
Thank you, Jeffrey. Thank you for having me on your wonderful podcast. So I guess there's not much to talk about with myself, really. I'm currently 24 years old. I'm currently working as a Doha Debates Ambassador, and I'm currently also pursuing a master's degree at SOAS University.
Oh, perfect. Oh, thank you. The dose, if you just repeat the dose bit, because I didn't hear the full name of it.
Oh, sorry, Doha Debates.
Okay. Could we know a bit more about that? I haven't heard of that before.
Well, it's currently it's a project that takes young people from as young as, I'd say, high school to university level, and it takes young people to work with international relations experts and have them work together to come up with solutions to wicked problems that are affecting the world: gender inequality, climate change, indigenous rights, all those sort of fun things.
Okay.
And it's currently, as far as I understand it, it is a project funded by the Qatar Foundation.
Okay. Oh, cool.
So yeah, I'm currently working with international relations experts in the field.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, it sounds like incredible work. Could we know which area you're sort of working on?
So I just started last week. So I'm currently aiming to work in fields regarding diplomacy and soft power, that sort of thing. That's what I'd like to personally go into as a career. But I'm also hoping to work with things involving indigenous rights and human rights and that sort of thing.
Oh, perfect. Oh, thank you. That's a nice way to, I think, transition into our first question, which is all about how you've gone from your undergraduate and you're now doing a postgraduate. So you've essentially transitioned into a new phase of university, and you've also on our website for your speaker page, you've mentioned that you've studied abroad. You've been abroad. Could you share? Now this might be tough to share one, so I'm going to give you three. But could you share for any first year students who might be coming into university? Your top strategies, so your top three strategies or your top three tips for first year students. How can they learn to adapt to university life while maintaining that important balance of, enjoying your time at university, but also making sure that you're keeping on top of your assignments and work?
Okay, so one thing I'd suggest for university students who are just starting out, one thing to do is very important: get good at time managing. And I know that can be very hard to do. I know people have different abilities, and I'm not going to lie, I was also quite lazy at times, being typical Gen Z. But I'd say get on top of learning to manage your time, because, go out, have fun. This is your time to go out and, learn more about yourself and sort of becoming your own person. And it can be very frightening being away from home. You have to learn to take care of yourself. You got to learn how to cook. You have to learn how to clean after yourself. And you start realizing all the things your parents nagged you about for years. Actually, it was for a reason. But also, you just got to keep on top of. You have to keep on top of your schoolwork. I mean, you are paying over $9,000 to go to uni these days. But don't waste the opportunity. But learn when your classes are. Make sure you get everything, and try to keep on top of your work as well, but learn to have fun as well. I mean, it's different for those who are coming from living in England and those who are coming from abroad. I'm pretty sure those two, they'll have very different experiences. I've met people who've come from, say, close as Slough, to people who are coming as far away as Indonesia. And that can be very scary, especially for those coming abroad. It can be very frightening because you've also got to deal with culture shock. You're getting used to how awful our weather is here. I'm sure as you can see right now, it's not the sunny beaches of Lagos, so to speak, but also it's you're learning just about you're becoming an adult and learning about adapting to life in a new country. And I can understand how that can be very scary and very frightening. But if anything, that's all just part of the experience, really. You're just learning to become your own person.
Definitely. I think that's true. And I think for a lot of students who may be watching or listening, they might know we've got another podcast called UK Uni, So No One Told You. And it's interesting because, as you mentioned, we did do an episode with someone who used to be the BME officer at the Student Union at Brunel, Layla. And she was speaking about how, so she's an international student. She was talking about how essentially moving to the UK, what that was like, because she grew up outside of the UK. She had a unique experience of coming here. Even like you mentioned about like being at university, sort of you're not only, I guess, like for most students who live in the UK, you're at most moving away from living with your parents. But with an international student, you're not only moving away from your parents, you're also moving away from your whole community, the place that you're so used to after so many years.
Yeah, and you're just moving away from everything you know. I mean, that's the struggle. I think that's the struggle just most immigrants deal with. But just very small. Where was Layla from exactly?
You know what? I don't know off the top of my head. I do not.
But yeah, I can see what you mean, because I sort of have a very similar experience because I was born and raised in the United Kingdom, for anyone who was wondering and can see what I look like. I'm clearly not English, but I also spent most of my life living abroad. But even for me, even though I grew up British, I went to British schools and all that stuff in different countries, coming back still felt like culture shock, because you're getting used to Britain as it is, and you're not just seeing it like through TV and movies and all that stuff. You're really experiencing it. But yeah, fundamentally, just learn to manage your time properly. I mean, even if you don't learn it, I mean, I guess you'll learn that the real world does have consequences, whether you like it or not. And it's a very painful lesson. I mean, trust me. I think I can speak for both me and Jeffrey. We understand that. When you don't show up to lectures and you don't turn in assignments, sometimes, things can get a bit sideways, but you learn from experience. That's just part of the experience. I'd say you're like when you're 18, 19, even in your 20s, this is the time to make mistakes now. Yeah.
Yeah, you can avoid them later on in life. I think it's interesting because this now leads into our next question, which is all about embracing new experiences. Because you mentioned that you mentioned it here about the importance of trying new things, getting out of your comfort zone. Could you give us an example of an experience, or how an experience or an activity, maybe both at Brunel, but also currently on your master's, this helped shape you into the person that you are today?
Sure, no problem. Well, my first week of uni, I went on a bit of a bender and joined about over 50 different cultural societies. And I know Jeffrey can attest this because I met him at one of these events. So for me, I was a real bit up. I'm still up, Salam. I'm a huge travel nerd. I love traveling to different countries. I love culture. I even did anthropology as my bachelor's degree. That was my undergrad. So I joined 50 different cultural societies and went to every meet and greet, every open event, every prayer meeting. Didn't matter which one it was. It could have been like the Afro-Caribbean Society, Nigerian Society, Hindu Society, Jewish Society. Didn't matter which one. Italian, Romanian, whatever. If there was a cultural society at Brunel, I was in it. And I understand it's been pretty awkward for people who were actually from those places and from those cultures to see an Asian face in the. I'm sure Jeffrey can like.
I don't know, but I think just sort of to link to that, we again, funnily enough, we did an episode on with the former society's administrator at Brunel, and she was saying that a lot of people do sort of feel there is that awkwardness of joining a society that maybe, you don't necessarily identify with them, especially if it's a cultural society. But I think one key thing that she said is that a lot of the societies, I'd say, at least in my time in Brunel, a lot of the societies they didn't mind they were very happy to sort of have people attend their events and learn about, especially with cultural societies, to learn about their culture. So like I know, for example, the Portuguese Society, who we had their chair on, Anna Monica. I don't know if she's still the chair. I think she might be. But she came onto the podcast and she, invited me along to a Christmas dinner that the Portuguese, Italian and Spanish Society all did. So it was like a hot pot where people brought in their own food. You could cook your own meal. I remember, like, for example, I did bring food for that. I brought jollof rice for it. So
the best. Nigeria. I really don't want people to but I know that there's that debate with Ghanaian and like Gambian jollof rice, but I will say though, jollof rice, it slaps. When I tried it when I went to Nigerian Society event for the first time, because I'd never tried African food before.
Oh wow.
I guess that is an example, I would say. You get to, also, pro tip, if you join a lot of societies and they have events and they'll leave a lot of free food behind, you won't have yourself for a week. Months even. I think my first year of uni, I remember the first couple months, I didn't even need to feed myself for a week because they left out all the free food. And you can just take it if you want. That's a bit of a tip, and it saves you some money.
Exactly. No, definitely.
Just make sure you go to the gym.
But no, I think like you said, like there are a lot of societies that do events that they're very open for people to get involved in. And I think one key thing, because sometimes people do forget, is I know at least at Brunel, it's like you can do it. So I don't necessarily speak for all universities, but I know for some of them, like, staff members are also encouraged to get involved as well. So like I know with the Holly celebration, students and staff get involved with it. It's a very big thing at Brunel.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
The quad gets covered in like powder.
Like literally last summer, because I was working at Brunel and you could literally, so I was in the building that the library's in, and you could just hear, like the windows weren't open, but you could hear, because they were playing loud music, you could hear everyone shouting and cheering and all of this stuff. So I think that's one of the great things that I do like about cultural societies, and I have said before, for like anyone who's going to university, it's a very good thing to like get involved in. A little plug, we've got our Society Spotlight, our podcast on Brunel societies, which will be coming back very shortly. So keep an eye out, because there'll be some cultural societies that you could get involved in. But yeah, I think like you said, it's very important to just get out there and just try these new things, because you learn so much.
Yeah, maybe you'll like it, maybe you won't. You won't know until you try it. I mean, there were some societies, I won't lie, that were quite, for lack of a better term, quite dead. But yeah, if you join the group chats, you might get to meet new friends, you might get connections, you might be able to network with people, and you don't know. I mean, it can take you to a lot of great places. And plus, if you don't feel like cooking, you can get those societies might be able to feed you for a while. Plus, homemade meals from as far as Nigeria to Malaysia to Latin America. I mean, even some students, I remember the Latin American Society, there were some members who would offer services, like they would cook like dishes for you, and for like less than like £3, you can get like everything from empanadas to jollof rice, and like you can get yourself a nice Caribbean plate of mac and cheese. It's great. It's amazing.
That's really good. Links to our next question, which is, on our website, in your description, you mentioned that you spent some time studying abroad. You studied in South Korea. Now, that must have been a learning curve, because, did you speak Korean before you went there, or was it something that you learned while there?
Oh, I may have phrased that wrong. I didn't study in South Korea. I taught English.
Oh, you taught English?
I was there for my placement.
Oh, nice.
So luckily I went before COVID happened, so that was a good sign. I went during probably the worst month of the year, which is in summer, which I forgot that it is. If you've ever been to Asia, in summer, it is the worst. You're constantly drenched. You're sweating a lot. But yeah, Korea was quite a fun experience. I knew a bit of Korean before I went, but funny enough, I learned how to read Korean on the plane ride there. Because I won't lie, learning to read Korean is surprising. Hangul is actually surprisingly very easy.
Okay.
Even the guy who made it, the king back in the 1400s or so, he said that a wise man can acquaint himself with it before the morning is over. A stupid man can learn it in the space of 10 days. So I'm not trying to call anyone stupid, but yeah, learning how to read and write Korean, that was quite honestly, I mean, I can't speak for everyone. I'm a bit of a language nerd. I honestly love learning language, hence the anthropology. But speaking Korean when I landed was, yeah, that was quite difficult because very few people speak English. And even though I was very close to the capital, Seoul, it's people still don't tend to speak English because they're quite nervous and they're a bit shy. And especially if you're there to do research, they're a little nervous to talk to you. But once you talk, you gain their trust and you work with them. I mean, I gained some friends from teaching them English. I mean, one of them I actually took around London when she came over here, so I gave her a more honest tour of London, which I did appreciate. And I still help. I still now help other people with English if they need it. I even offer it to international students at SOAS if they.
Oh, nice.
For no charge at all. Hey, if you need some help getting around, I can help you and contextualize it in a way that you can understand it with no pressure.
Oh, wow, that's really great. I think, that kind of links to the main question was essentially, as you mentioned, we won't go into a lot of detail about it. I will include the links about placements and the why we encourage students to do placements. We're not paid by anyone to say that, but we, as a team, we've had a mix of people that have and haven't done placements, and everyone said that they like the idea of placements. Very good. Check out those episodes. We will be including those in the description below. But essentially, students may not know, as you mentioned, that they can do international placements. So I guess the main thing is, for anyone who's considering the possibility of studying abroad, they want to do a placement abroad, whether it's similar to you, they want to teach a subject, whether they want to work for a company that is basically based in another country. What advice would you give to those students? How can they immerse themselves in a new culture, ensure that they have a really good time, and sort of I guess because there is that, obviously, like when you go on holiday, and especially if it's not for a long period of time, you're still in that sort of like touristy phase. But for a student who, let's say, is going to commit the next year of their life to be in a new country, which they've never been in before, what advice would you give to them to help them immerse themselves in this new culture?
So in the context of them doing this for a placement?
For placement.
Okay, so one thing I would say is make sure you have your finances in order. Because, especially if you want to go somewhere very far away or very remote, make sure you can support yourself and make sure you're at least given accommodation and food and, just find a way to at least support yourself. Make sure you have contacts, you have, details of people, and make sure that wherever you're working is, not sketchy or a scam. I did mine through a company called Workaway, not a sponsorship. Just make sure that you have contact info, you do your research before you go somewhere, and make sure that you are aware that this is not a holiday. I mean, granted, by all means, enjoy yourself. I mean, I spent my off days going to temples and going to see cafes and even conquering a fear of mine. And with that, you just have to learn to understand, yes, enjoy yourself, but realize you are there to do research. You're not there for a holiday, but you just sort of keep that sort of work-life balance. Make sure you, if you're working somewhere or volunteering, make sure you are on good terms with your manager. And, it's better to have people to have your coworkers like you, which is, they can also help you with things because they might have been there longer than you and can help you get to grips with the area. But also, do your research beforehand, do your homework, make sure that you understand the customs, or you're at least acutely aware, and go in with an open mind. Go in with no expectations, because also some place might look amazing. You may see it on your Instagram Reels or TikTok, and it may look like absolutely everything, but when you go there, you may be wildly disappointed. But I can gladly say that was not the case for me. But I will say, do your research, make sure you can support yourself, and make sure you're on good terms with your manager and your coworkers, and have good contacts. I guess maybe have a list of things you'd like to do and ask people about it. Also, talk to locals. Talking to locals is probably the best thing I could do just for traveling in general. I'd also say skip touristy stuff. Don't waste your money. Go and do things, do the mundane, and make the mundane interesting. That's a saying we had to learn in anthropology.
Oh, wow. Thank you. And yeah, I definitely agree, because I think that when it comes to whether it's, like you said, like traveling or, doing a placement abroad, from my work in the PDC that I did for my own placement, I know that there are, so like they have their own support service. I've forgotten what it's now called, because it used to be, I think it was Erasmus?
Erasmus?
Yeah. So they used, I think that used to be the one that Brunel used, but I think they've now used a different one through Santander. But essentially, they would pay for you to, like, the finances would be contributed towards your like international placement.
Oh yeah, I remember my one was through Santander. It paid for like partially for my flights, but I made sure like everything else was for me. I hustled through different ways, but make sure you have the finances. Make sure you get your finances in order.
100%. And, the PDC can, obviously, if you're a Brunel student, the PDC can obviously support. If you're not a Brunel student, then your own university's placement provider can also offer you different options as well. But I think a key thing that you mentioned as well is the organisation. So one thing I can say from Brunel is any organisation, so essentially, when it comes to placement, like very quickly, when it comes to placements, Brunel has a list of organizations that have either contacted them or they have personal contacts and have that relationship. So when they want to advertise a placement, they've already been like background checked, all done, all good. For any new organizations that come to, whether they find it on LinkedIn or whether it's just, someone introduces them, they always get fact checked. So especially if they're a UK company, they always check, is this company registered on Company House? Is this, has this company been around for a while? What is their office situation? Have they said, we're actually, based in one building, but it turns out it's actually someone's shed or someone's someone's house? Things like that, which obviously, as we mentioned, are very important. But it's the same with international placements. So they will check and see. Obviously, with international ones, it's a bit harder because there isn't like a international company house version, but they will check, is the address on Google Map the same thing that they've put on the application form to say that we can take a student on. One thing to add about international placements was actually something that happened when I was like working with the PDC, is make sure that if you are a placement if you're watching and you're a placement provider, this is important. But if you're a student and you want to get an international placement, it's not with someone that your university is registered with. Please do make sure that either if you speak the language of where you're like and you're fluent and of the organization you'd like to work with, please do make sure that when it comes to like the forms and stuff, you are helping with that, because there were times when, when I was working, there were some students that wanted to do international placements. It wasn't with someone we worked with before, so they had to complete a certain form. If it wasn't completed properly, then unfortunately the student couldn't go on placement. So please do make sure, and I understand with like exams and assignments, it's hard to always be that middle person. But if the company has someone that, maybe they're fluent in English, or there's someone else within that team that, says, I can reply to like, I can help sort this out for you, like it's perfectly fine. That's really good. But yeah, please don't wait last minute, because if you wait last minute, and we don't get certain things, then we can't sign off the placement. So even if you decide, oh, hey, I'm going to take the next year and I'm going to work in this organization, your university might not sign it off because they don't know anything about the company, or you haven't completed the health and safety forms, which again, super important, because the university won't let you go to an organization they don't deem as being secure when it comes to health and safety.
Yeah, you got to keep on tabs of those things, because they can help you with our PDC. The Brunel PDC can help with a lot of things. They can only help you so far. You got to do your part too. Like you got to do like some of the parts on your own. So they can't hold your hand through it.
Exactly.
Especially because you don't want to get scammed and stuck in a foreign country where no one speaks English or no one speaks the language you do, and now you're stuck and oh no, you run out of money or something happens to you. So you just want to make sure you know what you're doing. And I get at the age of like 18, 19, you feel like you're grown and like, I can take care of myself. I've got this. And next thing you know, you're on the pavement in Bogota, Colombia with no money, and now you're like holding a cardboard sign looking for a ride.
Exactly. No, that's all right. But yeah, it's the whole point of just making sure that like you do take, like you said, ownership and responsibility. That's why, when it comes to placements, at least within the PDC, they always say like, if you want to do a placement, and especially an international one, get started on that as soon as especially because usually the international, like if it's a year one, you have to do it in your second year. So if you know from the start of second year, even if you start of first year, you want to do international placement, get those in the works. Like, you don't necessarily have to have applied in your first year or have, everything sorted within the first term of your second year, but just start working on that. So when it comes to actually, all right, we're going to sign the health and safety forms, we're going to do this. It's not that when your exams are happening and you've got like 2 weeks before your placement, they've sent you the contract, you've got 2 weeks before you're supposed to start. That's when everyone's like rushing around to try and get everything sorted so you can still go.
Yeah, and if you don't know what to do, you can always just ask them, like, hey, which forms do I need to sign? Who do I need to speak to? This is the time like now to ask, I guess this is going back to the first question. A good thing to do is know when to ask for help. I get it. You don't want to seem like you don't know what you're doing, but hey, it's better to ask for help. I mean, don't ask like every few minutes because, PDC have other people to talk to, but, just know when to ask for help. I know it seems very strange, especially for as guys, you don't want to seem like you don't know what you're doing, but you want to prove that you're, you're an adult and you can handle this. And yeah, that's great. It's great you want to take the initiative, but know that it's okay to ask for help, especially because these things, if you're doing it for the first time, it can be scary and complicated. And trust me, I'm someone who gets very freaked out by paperwork, especially if it's a lot of things that I have to chase a lot of people for. But yeah, again, time management, and if you ask for help, our Brunel PDC were very nice. They were very helpful in finding placements. Even the people we spoke to, I think I had Roman.
Roman, yeah.
Yeah, he helped me with mine. He was very helpful with all this. I mean, he asked me because I went to Korea. He asked me this is a very weird memory. He asked me, I know this won't happen, but if North Korea attacks, do you have an escape plan? Which I'm grateful he did, because I don't know, things can happen. We don't know what dear leader's thinking, but I told him because I was going via Dubai to get to Korea, that if something should happen, I would probably just fly there and stay with my dad, because he works there. Not trying to. This isn't.
No.
This isn't a plot thing, but yeah. Learn that it's okay to ask for help for these things, because it can be complicated.
And definitely, and I think one important thing to actually mention about that, sort of. Not for people to panic and think if you do an international placement, you have to have like escape routes, and if certain weather,
I mean, if it's more dangerous, what you want to do like with your placement, of course,
yeah.
And there are going to be more. I mean, it's the same with like BBC journalists. Exactly. If you're I mean, it's not like, I mean, unless you're going to like the middle of war-torn Ukraine or Gaza or somewhere dangerous, know that if you're going there to places like that, of course, you have to understand there is going to be a lot of paperwork and like insurance, travel insurance, health insurance, and also the safety of your own life.
Yeah, and I will say with that with the PDC, they did have you have a high, medium, and low risk of the placement. So
I remember filling this.
So it's not only to do with like the work you as an individual are doing, but it's also to do with like you said, like if it's international, if it's with a company that Brunel's never worked with before. But one interesting thing from the story you just mentioned is I know from my old manager, she was saying that an interesting thing happened, I think a while ago, was a couple of students were doing like I think they were civil engineering students, and they were doing like a project. I don't remember which country it was, but essentially a natural disaster occurred while these students were on their placement. Either they're on placement or on a course trip. And the really interesting things about it is that obviously the students got involved when this event happened. They went and gave their support to the relief effort, and they all of them ended up winning the Vice Chancellor's Award, which is an award that can get offered to any Brunel student for just basically exemplary work that they do. So literally, as you mentioned, it's not something that is there to scare you. It's there so students, so the university can make sure you as a student are safe and are protected wherever you go. So yeah,
exactly. Yeah, just think of it sort of as like as protection. And Brunel does. I think they provide you with insurance, like where you're going.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, thank you very much. Mental health is really important to us at Pick Up the Mic, and we love to share resources that can support your mental health. And that's why we are so glad to have today's sponsor. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. To get you started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences in therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's via text, chat, phone, or video call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule live appointments when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't right for any reason, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who is custom-picked for you, more scheduling flexibility, and at an affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/pickupthemic. I've also linked them down below in the description. So again, that's betterhelp.com/pickupthemic, MIC, and start your journey today. Yes, let's go on to the next question. We've spoken about advice and tips for current first-year students going to university and what they can do. But as I'm sure you know, as someone who's completed their undergraduate, and as I'm sure you will know, because you're someone who's currently doing their master's, your master's dissertation will be coming up shortly. So you have the experience of both of those. But what practical tips could you offer, I think, especially for final year students? Because at this time we're recording in January, and some students would have submitted their dissertation, some will be in the process of working towards either submitting their first draft, and that of course means that, you know, the summer's going to come, they're going to have loads of exams, that quick turnover of if you've passed everything, then you have to get all your graduation stuff in time, and if you haven't passed stuff, then you need to do research and all of this, as well as the big overarching thing of applying for jobs and trying to figure out what you want to do once you graduate. So what practical tips or hacks could you mention to any students listening that you think could help them to navigate their academic journey more effectively?
I'd say the first thing to do would be, I guess, looking back to the first question, manage your time properly. Get a good work-life balance. And I know that's very difficult. That's easier said than done. It may be easy for some. It was easy for me, but it's also because you have control over your own time. But I guess understand you are at a point in your life now. You are in charge of your own destiny. You have to take the captain's wheel because you are the one who's in control here, and that And I guess learn to schedule time for yourself, and then time to do what you want and all that. And also, schedule time to do things, to do your dissertation and process. By the way, good luck to everyone who is actually doing this now. I'm currently still just trying to finish my third module. But an important thing to do is if you're doing a dissertation, I mean, I'd say an important thing to do, if you're still deciding what to do, pick something you are not going to get bored of very easily. Pick something that you are quite passionate about. I mean, for me, all my friends in my year at Brunel, they were doing more more advanced things, such as for their dissertation, they were doing things like I forgot what the title was, but Crystal. So she did it on the Mauritian diaspora in Chagosian in London. But I mean, for me, it was different. For us, it was different because we did it in the first wave of COVID. So I initially was planning to go abroad again, but I can't do that. And also, where I wanted to go, there were huge protests, and I'd rather not leave that area with a Molotov cocktail in my head. So I focused on something that could be done a bit more closer to home, where I didn't have to leave the house because lockdown. And I really enjoyed doing it, and it really opened my mind to a lot of different ways of thinking and different people, and I didn't even have to leave my house or put on trousers. But I'd say learn to schedule your time, because you do need to have time for yourself as well. Have a bit, take some time for mindfulness, exercise. I mean, for me personally, I don't want to. That sounds like a lot of work, but take time out for yourself to just sort of get what you need. Some people have I know people have different techniques for how they do their work and productivity. I know some people try the Pomodoro technique, where they do 25 minutes of work and then they take a break and then they do another 25 minutes. I don't know. But for me, I always just make sure I give myself a limit to how much I can write and then say, okay, once I've hit this much, I can go take a small break and then go back to it. I mean, there's also people, again, like me, who may work better when the deadline's looming closer, and because it sort of like, forces you to keep tabs on things. But yeah, I'd say, learn to find your method for. Sorry, I lost my train of thought here.
No, that's right.
Find your method that helps you get the work done in the time you need to. I mean, also keep track of the date, because there are people who have online degrees or lectures. Ask your lecturers for help, and even if it may seem like like nagging or annoying, it's quite annoying. I mean, in my case, I had to, when I showed my draft to my professor, there were constant, I remember she nitpicked really constantly, and it drove me insane. And I didn't know how much more explicit I had to be, put more analysis. Well, what do you mean? Could you explain a bit more? You kind of have to put up with this for a while. And I know it sounds really frustrating and it sounds really annoying, and you're going to hear this constantly. But I would say wear these experiences as battle scars, and you wear them proud like a warrior.
Definitely. No, I definitely agree, because I think, to touch on a few things that you mentioned, I think definitely you have to do a subject that you enjoy for your dissertation, because I've said it before on different podcasts, but you'll never truly enjoy what you're doing you'll never do well, in what you do if you don't enjoy what you're doing. So if you're doing a dissertation topic and you're just doing it because you think it's easy, or I think the biggest one that usually happens is students, get told by supervisors, or they think, it's very topical, so I'm going to talk about this. But then they'll get into it, won't be able to change their topic at this point, and then they'll be stuck.
It's very hard I will say it's very hard to fake enthusiasm in something, because if you're writing about something because you feel like you have to do it, or because you think it's like, this will get me ahead of or something, and think, don't think you're going to be like a real clever clogs and thinking you're going to get around that. No. They can smell your that you don't want to do this. I mean, but if you write something you're passionate about, even if it seems like really stupid or really pointless. I mean, I did my dissertation was on my undergrad was about cosplay culture.
Okay.
And sure, that sounds very weird. I mean, unless there's any otaku watching, or any anime fans who go to conventions. Shout out to MCM Comic Con. But I will say I found more enjoyment out of it, and I took pride in my work, and I enjoyed doing the research. If you're doing something because you feel obligated to, or you don't like it, it's very hard to show enthusiasm. You'll end up getting bored of it. You're gonna just not feel like the desire to do it, and you're not gonna feel enjoyment. You're just gonna produce sloppy work.
Exactly.
So I'd say, find what you like to do, because that's at least original.
100%. And I think also, as you're mentioning, just effectively managing your time so that once it comes to crunch time, you can plan everything out, because I think a lot of people do sort of feel like knowing how you work is really important, because as you mentioned, there are some people that crunch time is when they do their best work. There are some people that they need to know, the schedule of their assignments the first or second week of uni, because that's how they can then plan out the rest of their week. There are some people that can only will only start working on it once they've had a good 3 days of just relaxing and not thinking about it. So figuring out what that is, I will say that's particularly why your first year doesn't necessarily count towards your degree, and why your second year counts only, depending on the course, a third to your degree, because the university essentially wants you to do well. So they want you to have that first year to figure out what's good, what's bad. The second year is okay, so I'm going to test these things, see how it works. In your third year, it's not an expectation from any university, because obviously people learn differently. But your third year is where, you've now got a bit more of an idea of what you like, what you don't like, what you can do to learn, what
what's
methods
expected
work.
of you.
Yeah.
You got I think around your third, or for me, it was more my first. I mean, the first year was more have fun and get. But get yourself situated into adult life. I mean, mine was also just trying to adjust back to life in the UK and being around people who actually took interest in me. But yeah, second year is when you're starting to get to grips with how your course works and you're getting to know your course mates still. Third year is like when you sort of understand what's expected of you and you understand. And if you're doing like fourth year, like I did, you understand everything and you sort of have you're at that point, I think you have a clear idea of what you say. And I just want to say for anyone who does resets, there's no shame in doing a reset.
100%.
I mean, yeah, there's no shame in it. Don't let anyone tell you that like, oh, if you do a reset, it means you're dumb or something like that, or that you weren't good enough for it. It means it just means you got to try again. No shame in it.
Exactly. And one key thing that I think to add on to that I think my master's lecturer said, which I really liked, was he said for a lot. So obviously, like COVID changed a lot of things for a lot of people, but he said one thing that changed about the master's course was a lot of the exams where they were like a 1 hour multiple choice question exam. He changed it to be like a 7 hour open book, sort of like coursework style thing. So you wouldn't know the question or the topics that you would be answering within that 7 hour period, but you would log on, you'd get the question, and then you could use the internet, create a Word document, type up like a quick essay.
Oh yeah, that was how my one did as well.
Yeah.
But then again, I don't know about other courses because my degrees were both they were both coursework. But I remember they'd have before COVID they'd have like questions and have you write stuff out. But I think after COVID they never went back to it, which I'm really grateful for because now I won't develop carpal tunnel.
But no, but with that, our lecturer said like the reason why I didn't after COVID go back to sort of doing the multiple choice questions is because he said the thing, and I think it's linking to your idea about like with exams, like people not thinking that just because you don't do well in a certain exam means that you're sort of dumb or you're not intelligent, is he was saying that exams where it's like cram as much knowledge into your head to regurgitate on paper never really test someone's knowledge. He was just like, essentially it's just testing how much you can remember something in a short amount of time.
And I remember, if I may, I'd like to quote a poet that I was listening to. This was long before I came to uni. His name was Sully Breaks, and he believed that exam results do not define your fate. They don't. Whether you end up as a cashier or a billionaire, it doesn't matter. An exam does not define where you end up. I mean, I went to international schools for years, and I thought I'd end up at some fancy uni. I won't lie, Brunel wasn't my first choice of a uni, but I got into Brunel. And from that, it taught me a lot more than what I could learn from a book. It taught me interacting with different people from all walks of life. I was meeting people from different types of levels of Britain. I mean, honestly, I will say Brunel is a really great uni to like sort of bring you into reality, so to speak. But then when I did go to my dream uni, I got into SOAS to my master's, and I'm not trying to like downplay SOAS. It didn't live up to the hype I thought it would, but I won't lie. Yeah, it won't. Yeah, exams don't tell you what you're worth. I mean, unless you live in China and you're doing the Gaokao exam and you've been fed this like idea your whole life, it's not. An exam just teaches you how to regurgitate information, which which let's not lie, you're going to forget the minute you walk out of the exam hall.
Exactly.
I mean, come on, think back to when you were in GCSEs, A levels. I mean, honestly, I remember just darting out of the exam hall after I finished and didn't want people to ask the question, "How'd you do?" Because that's just gonna. I believe I had this ritual where like if I talked about it, I'd jinx it or something like that.
No, I completely get that. And he was saying, as you mentioned, that when you give someone like an open book exam or open book questions to answer in rather than like a 1 hour sitting trying to cram knowledge, you actually gain, like they take more knowledge away from the exam rather than sort of forcing them to remember it. So what he was saying is he did, so for one of our exams, he did a like look at your, so use this like environmental technique and look at your own, like I think it was look at something in your house, whether it's your kitchen routine, your bathroom routine, whether it's your shopping, like your clothes shopping, and think about how you can make it more sustainable. And I told my like siblings after the exam, I was like, actually, I think that's a really good way to ask a question because it's not something that, yes, you need to know the method and how to use it and all of that stuff, but you're just like, it's not sit in this exam and just regurgitate all this knowledge. It was actually think about this, and actually you might even start to implement some of these things.
Yeah, I think that's a better way to examine people is apply what you've learned to real life situations. And I guess open-ended questions are better because it tests you on how you think. Okay, I want to just say something else. Don't let anyone tell you there's only one way to do something. As long as the job gets done and you actually were able to finish the question, it shouldn't matter how you did it. And trust me, I've spent years and years escaping that mindset. And trust me, people will tell you, oh, this is wrong. Because let me tell you something. No matter how long you took GCSEs or A-levels, let me tell you something. Those examiners, when you do those exams in high school, they have like a little box. And if you don't fill anything that's not in that box, it's automatically wrong. However, when you come to uni, you could forget everything you learned in school because uni, they ask you, why do you think that? They don't just say, oh, it's wrong, and then say, shut up. They ask you, why do you think that way? Because, yeah, they are interested. There are different ways of thinking and different ways of learning. And don't let anyone shame you into thinking the way you think is wrong, unless it's like very illegal or something.
But yeah, we come to the last question. So we sort of kind of touched on it. So you've got your internship with the Henry Jackson Society, and you spoke about Doha Debates and being an ambassador for them as well. So you've clearly got a wealth of experience when it comes into diplomacy and global affairs. So how can students leverage university resources to help prepare them for essentially a career? Now, I'm going to make this a bit open-ended. So not only, I guess, a career within those fields, but how can any student sort of, whether it's through internships, whether it's through placements, whether it's through like competitions like the Ready program that Brunel runs.
Oh yeah, I remember that program.
Yeah, how can students sort of leverage these resources or these programs and opportunities essentially to help prepare them for a career in fields that are of interest to them?
I'd say take what the job wants from you and use the experiences you do have to match it. Okay, this may seem a little naughty, but it's okay to embellish a little bit. Don't outright lie, but okay. First of all, I don't want to get anyone's hopes up. I only have had like 2 of these experiences, but I guess 3. But one was a sort of a handout from a family member. But I won't lie. It is difficult to find experience, but I will say, try and use what you do have rather than focusing on what you don't have, because I know probably a lot of people don't have a lot of experience because we're not all lucky enough to be born with a silver spoon in our mouth and have a Coots card in our wallets. But I will say, focus on the experiences you do have, even if it's not it can be from your academic experience, it can be from life experience, it can be from just even traveling abroad. That's something. But I'm aware that not everyone has the advantage. So, but if you are able to, I would definitely say it. I'd find experiences that challenge yourself, that force you to think. I mean, my first job was a waiter in a Thai restaurant, and you'd think, oh, what can you learn from that? But I'll just use that example just briefly. Sorry, hang on.
This one.
Excuse me. So what that taught me, it taught me how to talk to people. It gave me confidence in how to manage time, how to prioritize tasks, and how to make a good impression on people. I mean, for me, if I spoke to the customer in their language, because I'd overhear them speaking everything from Thai to Spanish to Japanese, if I spoke a little bit, I get a bigger tip. I mean, I remember 2 women gave me 20 quid because I spoke 2 words to them in Hebrew. Honestly, shout out to them. But yeah, even if it's a waitering job or as a cashier or a street sweeper, take any experience is good experience and also it's a little naughty to say, but it's on a CV. It is okay just a little bit to embellish because you're trying to sell yourself. Put the experiences you did and just really paint them a really good picture. Because let's be honest, who's got like 10 years experience doing anything? Because I'll admit, I'll sympathize with a lot of you. Companies just expect you to be working from the womb. But that's not. But it's okay to just very lightly. I mean, don't outright lie because that's probably illegal. And I'm not advising any wrongdoing, but it's embellish just enough to make it sound believable, but don't outright lie. So if you had like some experience, waiting tables, you could say you were good at interact. You had good interpersonal skills. Or task prioritizing skills. If you worked in an office briefly, you had administration experience. So yeah, I'd say use any experiences you can and take the best parts of it, even if it was like brief or if it was terrible, because as long as you learn something from it, it's not a waste. Also, I'd say network as best you can. I mean, maybe you could do what I did and join like 50 plus society, because you never know, you might you might meet people, you might meet them at events they host, and you can probably also just have friends who can help support you in different ways, because you don't know what can happen. It's all about, I guess, forcing yourself to step out of your shell and come out of your comfort zone. I know that's quite difficult for some people, but if you at least try the experience, it's at least something you can put on a resume as that you at least tried it and that you're not afraid to try new things.
Definitely. And I think two key things to talk about is one, as you mentioned, the idea of like trying opportunities and stuff. As we mentioned before, there's things like the Ready program, the BSIT program, there's summer internships, there's part-time work. There's a lot of great things you can do within both, like if you're a Brunel student, some of those are all Brunel specific, but there are a lot of things that other universities offer you that you can sort of do throughout your 3 years or 4 years if you do a placement at university, that you can sort of like add to your CV. A lot of the things, like I know the Ready program is accredited. I think the BSIT program is as well. So even if, because sometimes people feel like, oh, I didn't like, for example, if you don't know the Ready program, students come together, they pitch an idea of how they can solve something, one of the sustainable development goals.
You apply it to a problem. For us, I remember when I did it, it was at a Zambian refugee.
Yeah.
I think it was called Mayukwa. And I mean, you'll work with people who maybe are not in your field of study. I had to do it with people who are in business and science, and here I was, some bum in anthropology, which you'd think that wouldn't be useful, but I helped come up with the name and working with the business guy in our team to develop a sort of a way to advertise it in a way that was sustainable and didn't produce any waste. And we ended up winning third place.
Exactly. And I think it's a key thing to say, because a lot of the time people think, if I don't win, then I can't mention it. It's still not really good. But even to get to, because like a lot of people do apply for that program, it's not something that, doesn't get a lot of applications. But I think one key thing the person that runs the program, Simona, was saying is like, even to just be considered for the final is such a great thing. There is stuff like the venture competition at Brunel that gives £10,000 to it's usually around like 3 to 5 entrepreneurs, depending on how many applicants there are, but 3 to 5 entrepreneurs on a business idea. Brunel doesn't own any equity of your business idea. It's open to current students and alumni. But yeah, students feel like they can't apply to that because, maybe they don't have a business idea, or maybe it's not along the development line. But yeah, they offer loads of workshops. They offer a lot of support. Again, that's something that you can put on your CV. It's something that you can put on your LinkedIn. It's something you can, promote. So yeah, definitely like get involved with all these opportunities that both in your university, but also outside.
Yeah, even if you don't think you're going to be good at it, at least make the effort to try, because at least you can say it'll be, in worst case scenario, a bad experience can end up becoming a funny story.
Exactly.
It's making the bad a good thing. So it's I guess just have a positive mindset. And I know that's quite difficult to do in Britain. We're not a particularly optimistic people.
Yeah, but I think even linking to what you're saying about the experience and like making the use of every experience. There was someone who's on the podcast before, Vishali, and she was talking about job hunting after graduation. And one key thing that she said is I think it was her, but she said that she used to be a manager at McDonald's. And a lot of people, like when she said it, she felt like people would sort of discredit her or like be like, oh wow, that's like such a bad thing to like have on your CV.
Yeah, we need to stop this whole like job
100%.
thing. I mean, unless you did something, you were working in for as an accountant for. But yeah, there's no such thing as a bad experience. I mean, hell, people work in all sorts of things. I mean, even famous people worked in the most bizarre jobs, but those things build experience, and and as boomers will say, it builds character, which in a roundabout way they are kind of right, because a bad experience can be a good story.
Yeah, and like she was saying with her, the most important thing that she learned was that like how to manage a team of people. So because wherever you work, to be a manager is always very like to get managerial experience before you're a manager, or even before you're a manager in your dream company or in your dream career is very important, because you'll find. Like everyone says it, that obviously everyone has different learning styles and things like that. But the biggest, I guess, thing that's hard, the hardest thing to actually do is understanding that, managing people is not a simple thing.
Oh yeah, it's very hard. Like working in a team. I get the whole like joke with the group projects, and that's something you might have to do at uni. You're gonna have to work with different people, and it will probably suck. 80% of the time. I mean, I've been there before, having to stay up at like 4 a.m. to finish an assignment and having an exam the next day. But hey, those experiences are things you can help to build experience. And plus people have a good. It's also, if you go to a job interview, I'd say what they're looking for is also I guess a good story.
100%.
What you learn from it is what's important.
Exactly. And I think like one final thing to say before we wrap up is, as you mentioned, that there's definitely so much that you can learn from every like opportunity that you get or you don't get. And it's just about not letting the ones that you don't get limit you after them. So whether you apply for like jobs and you don't get them, or whether you get to interview stages and they don't always go well, maybe you apply for your dream company and you don't hear back, like don't let that then turn you off from doing that anymore. Yeah, don't let it discredit you. I mean, I'm currently still applying for internship. I mean, I applied to probably like hundreds of places to even for not even a proper job, like internship, work experience. And I think I have a whole like file in my laptop that's full of rejection letters from where I wanted to at least gain experience. I think I remember writing to every single diplomatic embassy international organization in London to ask, like begging almost any kind of experience, like anything you can offer me, even going so far as to I think SOAS and other unis in London they do this thing called the diplomacy ball, where you gotta dress up in a tux. I mean, I wore like a clip-on kind of thing. So I went and shook hands with like diplomats, I believe the Costa Rican ambassador and the Mongolian vice deputy consul, rubbing shoulders with them. And even then, like, it may not be enough, and it probably it'll feel terrible, and you're gonna feel, and it'll break your heart. But the important thing is, I guess, don't give up. Keep going. And yes, it's tiresome. Yes, it's annoying. Yes, it feels like preparing for a bad day. But it's important you don't give up. Exactly. Yeah, just keep going, even if you have to be persistently annoying about it. Definitely, because I think one key thing, like one final lesson to take home is. There's like a lot of people talk about it on Instagram, especially whether it's to do with growing your profile, as whether you want to be a content creator, whether you want to grow your profile on LinkedIn, whether you want to be like a business owner. People don't really care about. There's two things with this. One, there's someone on the podcast that came and spoke, Indy Love Gordon. She spoke on the student guide, and she said, talent obsession beats talent every time. So you can be a really talented person, but if you are not obsessed with what you do, it doesn't matter, because anyone, like, people can learn. People who are obsessed with what, whether it's their business, whether it's, learning a new skill, they will dedicate the time and effort and energy into learning it. And the second thing that I was going to say is the whole idea of looking at opportunities and getting not like you said, like being consistent, because a lot of people think, you know, whether it's these YouTubers or like I think, and you know, people, funnily enough, I went to an event yesterday that we will be posting some interviews for about shortly, and they were talking about it was a Brunel event, and they were talking about how you know, they were business owners, and one thing that one of the speakers said was this whole idea of like short form content, and without going into like the lengths and breadths, because that could be its own podcast on like TikTok and the rise of short form content. They are sort of, their backgrounds in social media. So they were saying, so they work for like Amazon, and they were talking about that and what they think the future of social media will look like. And they said longer form content is what is going to be there. And I think the reason why I mentioned that with consistency is a lot of people think, oh, if I'm not bringing in like large numbers, if I don't get loads of likes or loads of reposts on my LinkedIn post, or, you know, I messaged like 30 hiring managers on LinkedIn and none of them got back, that's not, you know, that suddenly means that I'm not good enough or I'm not great. But one key thing that the person was saying was that consistency is key. It's people prefer someone that is consistent, that, you know, and especially when it comes to employers, that they know that, you know, if I ask this person to do a job, they're going to do it. They're going to deliver it. Now, if they've got a lot of work on, or if they don't deliver it, I know something's up, because this person's always there. Even arguably, like we said with time management, you know, when you get to a job, if they expect you at a certain time, you know, and you're regularly there at that certain time, and you start to be there a bit later, they might, you know, not in like a telling off way, but they might be like, is everything okay? You know, usually you're at work at this time, you've been coming to work a bit later, I just want to make sure everything's good, because they'll know that you're consistent and they'll know that that's key to who you are. So they'll know, so that's how sometimes people, like especially managers, can tell if something's going on. But yeah, when it comes to like work, if people see that you're delivering like always great work, you're always like focused on assignments, you're always like supporting your colleagues, and you know, you're, like we said, like with jobs, you're always applying for stuff, you're always like very dedicated, and whether it's, you know, you're posting stuff and all of these things, you will find that people will get in touch with you. Like hiring managers will get in touch with you. A friend of mine who's on the podcast called Laura, she spoke about how she actually got a job through LinkedIn because she messaged a company that she was really interested in working in if she could work with them. They said, unfortunately, we don't have jobs at the moment, but if you, will let you know, like in the future. They got back to her and said, you know, we've got this new job that's interested, that, you know, that's in the same field that you have experience in. If you want to work with us, like, please send in an application. She did. She got an interview, did really well, and she got the job. So yeah, it's all about consistency. I think people do feel that, you know, you have to, like, if you don't win anything, it's not great, but people all the time win and lose, but not everyone is consistent with the work that they do.
Yeah, the important thing is to keep trying, because I mean, I thought it would be ages before I got, because I'll give an example. When I really want to work in the Foreign Office and work as a diplomat, and I would apply every year to this graduate scheme they would do. I think it's called the Diplomatic and Development Scheme. And the questions are what I had trouble with, because just small side note, I am on the spectrum, so it's very hard for me. And the questions felt like they seem easy, but it felt deceptively impossible. And I've been trying for 3 years now, and I still don't get it. And for a while, I was really depressed. It broke my heart. I wouldn't leave my room even. But I've learned I could either sit and whine about it, or I can be proactive and focus on something else. I guess just keep it. Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that in a way. But the important thing is to just keep trying. And also with the networking and meeting people in different societies, they can also like help you find places. They can say, hey, I know this place, I think you'd be really good at it. I mean, even in your course, I mean, my friend Elise Gordon recommended that I apply for the International Maritime Organization, which ironically, when I was working at Henry Jackson, was right across the Thames from me. I could literally see the building from my office, which is great, because it's good to have like people who at least will help you find places. I mean, some places you got to find on your own, and I get that sucks because you know I got to do all the work myself. But I guess you got to discipline yourself to try and find places and fields that you're interested in. Because again, it's very hard to fake enthusiasm. People can smell that you're either just wanting this for the money. And even if you go there, and the one thing I hear a lot is, we'd love to hire you, but you don't have a lot of experience. Honestly, I don't want to tell people to lie, but I'm also going to tell people a job is a job. So you could ask in an interview, okay, you understand, but what are there any roles you have in your company that you can offer with experience? So it's all about working with what you do have and making it work for you.
Definitely. And I think even like with that, it's also remembering that, as we mentioned, that, look at the essentially bare basics of what your previous experience is. If you worked in, like you said, like if you worked as a waiter, you've got time management skills, you've got people skills, you've got, manage, like you might not be necessarily managing deadlines, but you've got to manage different, orders that you've got sent to you.
Yeah, because my case, we were right next to the Ealing Council, and there'd be like 15 of them during the dinner rush, and like having to get their order while also taking care of other people who are eating at the same time. And you might have to deal with a sudden crisis.
Exactly.
I mean, something could happen. You have to take multiple plates at once. You got to remember whose dish goes where. You have an allergy. You have to remember all these things. And those skills are important in a job that can translate later. You just got to make it sound good. I mean, don't lie, but just make. I won't lie. I'm as a half Lebanese, I will say we're very good at making things sound amazing, like the best thing ever. I don't want to curse, but I will say we are good at. If you want to hire on a marketing team people who will make anything sound good, I'd say hire a Lebanese.
But no, I think that's the biggest advice is just be acceptable to any opportunity that you get, but then make the most of it. Don't think, like we said before, don't think that just because it's not what you dreamed of.
Have a positive mindset. I know that sounds really annoying to hear. Like, oh, just be positive. I'm not trying to advocate for toxic.
No.
But have an open mind. And be positive about the experience. I mean, sure, it may not be what you dreamed of, but it's still better than nothing. It's better than not having any experience. Exactly. We have a saying in Cantonese and Hong Kong that called "hokomo," which means literally it's better than nothing. So it's better to have some experience, even if it doesn't seem related, than no experience.
100%. But yeah, we've now come to the end of the episode. It's been great speaking to you, Rami.
Thank you for having me.
If our audience want to connect with you, maybe there are even possibly some employers that are looking for a new person to hire once he's finished his master's. What's the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Well, I'm on LinkedIn, so you know that. I'm also on Instagram. That's just mostly seeing what I'm like outside of it. So mostly just me taking pictures of my food, like very fancy food. If anyone wants to take me to corporate event with a nice spread, I'm more than happy. I will not say no. But yeah, those are I think those are the two ways an employer can get in contact with me. And Instagram is if anyone wants to just reach out and talk to me.
Perfect.
So that sort of thing, and if when I'm on your team and you want to get to know me better, I'll possibly give out more. I can give out more direct ways to contact me.
Perfect.
But we'll set up an interview. We can set up an interview and discuss later.
And yeah, thank you to our wonderful audience for coming back for another episode of Behind the Curtain. If you like this episode, a like and comment and subscribe is always appreciated. If you want to make sure you don't miss any of our other episodes, so whether it's to do with Behind the Curtain or any of the other podcasts under Pick Up the Mic, then please make sure you click the notification bell. And if you want to keep an eye on our other channels, as we mentioned, we have our 3 new channels. So we have the Two Maesters exploring sci-fi and fantasy and all things related to that. They'll be picking up some new stuff with the new year. If you want to learn more about gaming, check out Pick Up the Controller, where we'll be interviewing gamers and game enthusiasts. And finally, if you're interested in anime, you want to learn more about the world of cosplay, and yeah, we've got an anime podcast. We've been doing, we started that, oh gosh. Yeah, it was, I think it was just after Comic-Con last year, or maybe before. But yeah, we have, if you're interested in anime, then check out our anime podcast, Senseis of Anime, where we interview cosplayers. We've actually got an episode coming out soon. It'll be 2 parts, because yeah, like we were trying to do it as we started off saying, oh yeah, it'll probably be about an hour, should be all right. It ended up being like 2 hours and something. We just got distracted on talking about anime and our passions. So yeah, Senseis of Anime if you're interested in learning more about the world of anime. But yeah, we're gonna close the curtain and call it a day. And we will see you the next time. Actually, sorry, before we do that, I forgot to add the last thing. If you're interested in supporting the podcast and and receiving some cool perks. We're actually in the middle of trialing some things. So we will actually be adding, not only will you get like exclusive access to podcasts, but we're also looking into possibly getting some merch for you guys too. So if you're looking to be one of the first people to pick up the mic merch, please do make sure that you subscribe either to our Patreon page, which is in the link below, or our YouTube channel membership, which you can also find in the link below. But yes, now we're officially closing the curtain on this episode, and we will see you all the next time when we go behind the curtain to discuss another important topic. Thank you.